Hey everyone, and welcome back. So now it's time to look at this week's new Nintendo Switch games. And I've got 10 games lined up for this week. And you know what? It's really great to see that this late in the Switch's life cycle, we're still getting so many great games releasing. So you know what? Now let's jump in. Just remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already. Okay, so now our first game for this week, guys, is going to be a 2-for-1. And we actually saw these games in a very recent Nintendo Direct, and that is the Monument Valley games, which will be releasing on April 15th. So most likely by the time you're watching this video, the games will already be available. And they're releasing for $9.99 a piece. However, with a pre-release discount of 10% off, so you can pick them up for $8.99 a piece. Now, these look like some really fun out there puzzle adventure games. They remind me a lot of the concept of Fez, if you've ever played that game. Let's take a look at the trailer and you can see just what we can look forward to.
Monumental adventures await.
So it's really a game that plays with like different perspectives.
This series of beautiful puzzle games. Wander through isometric worlds filled with stunning landscapes to manipulate, optical illusions to discover.
And I really love that.
Secrets to
like when games play with perspectives for puzzles, it really makes it one of a kind and you remember those games.
The enigmatic Crow people. A different journey awaits in Monument Valley 2. Guide Ro in her adventure through motherhood as she and her child unlock the secrets of the sacred geometry.
And this one actually, the second one reminds me a lot of Cocoon.
Add-ons, and DLC. The first two Monument Valley games launch on Nintendo Switch April 15th.
Now, the trailer does continue with the third game that will be releasing at a later date, so we're going to keep that for another time. I really wanted to focus on Monument Valley 1 and 2 here. Like I said, if you're into puzzle games, you're into having really different perspectives to puzzle games, I think these are going to be great pickups. And at $10 a piece, they seem like a really great budget option, especially with how high quality the graphics look. Like, honestly, I'm probably going to be trying to pick these up this week, but they look awesome. Let's move on to our next game. So next, we move on to April 17th for our second game with Rusty Rabbit. Now, this game is going to be releasing for $19.99. And luckily, there is a playable demo on the eShop. Now, I actually have a stream where I played the demo. I did try it out. And I've got to say, I liked what I was seeing in the game. I'm going to say, however, what I did not like is there were a lot of cutscenes interrupting the gameplay. Hopefully that sort of evens out as the game goes on and they become less invasive. But at least for me, I was really enjoying the gameplay, but really disappointed with how often it got cut by these invasive cutscenes. However, overall, I still think this looks like a great Metroidvania with a 2.5D art style and a really original premise where you're sort of digging into a mountain, trying to build up your mech suit to be able to get further and further along. So let's take a look at the trailer and you can see what this game looks like. So in this world, rabbits took over and became like the primary life form.
Not a chance. I'm a rabbit. The name's Stam.
And by the way, performance on the Switch was pretty decent, at least in the demo that I played.
Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. Stam.
I've got something new. Want to look?
I've got another request. Have a look at it, would you?
Yeah, the skills, there's a pretty generous skill tree as well. Like I said, the voice acting throughout the game was okay, but if you play through the demo, you'll see that the cutscenes at one point become somewhat invasive.
I'm hopping mad now. I'll chop that thing up into seafood salad.
You're going down! No! Not that trick again!
Please, get out of here and leave me.
Smashing that rust piece into a million pieces!
And they try to go really hard on the attitude with the game. Like the characters, they try to sell the attitude really, really hard. So overall, I do think the game has a ton of potential. And basically, when I was saying the cutscenes were invasive, just to be clear, is that they're acting as a tutorial to the beginning of the game, but rather than like maybe flashing on screen something that could have been summarized in 2 sentences, they cut the gameplay and they give you like a 30-second to a minute-long cutscene that could have been done like just more effectively, and they happen very, very often, which is why like I hope at one point the gameplay flows a little better and you have longer sections in between these different cutscenes. But overall, nonetheless, the gameplay seems super interesting, and I'm really interested in trying the full version of the game. Maybe I'll manage to get my hands on a review code. If I do, I will try to play this game on stream with the full version, see if maybe it evens out a little more. So that is Rusty Rabbit releasing on April 17th. And you know what? $19.99 for a Metroidvania feels okay, especially since it has a 2.5D perspective. It seems to have a pretty decent production value behind it. So now let's move on to our next game, which is also releasing on April 17th. However, this game will be selling for $14.99 with a pre-release discount dropping it to $13.49, and it is called iRobot. No, it is not a Will Smith movie. It is a remake of a classic Atari game. And I've got to say, Atari has been remaking a lot of their classic arcade games. Not all of them have been massive hits, but I would say they're generally doing a pretty decent job in bringing these games up to a sort of modern standard and interesting for a modern audience. This one actually looks very interesting. I do want to try it out. However, it's maybe not high enough on my list for this week to guarantee I'll have the time. But let's check out the trailer and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Sees everything. Unhappy interface robot 1984.
It's sort of like a Pac-Man style game where you have to like get all the squares without hitting the enemies, but done with a different gameplay style overall. And they seem to be alternating it with like shooter levels. The graphics look really psychedelic from time to time, by the way. But it sort of works for the game. It's like a low-res, high-res type situation. So honestly, I'm interested. Not gonna lie, I'm interested. It's like, it's funky enough where it might be worth diving into. Like I wanted to try the Lunar Lander remake. I haven't had time yet, but I do think I'm going to pick up a physical copy. They're on sale right now here in Canada at GameStop. I might actually jump in and pick one up and try it out. But yeah, so iRobot for this week, coming out on April 17th, to me, it looks really funky if you like those classic arcade games and you want to try like a sort of updated version of one of them. So definitely one to keep an eye on if it's your gameplay style. Next, we're going to jump into probably one of my most anticipated games for this week, but I've got to say there's like maybe 2 other games that are competing with it. we have Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds Unlimited, which is a pixel art side-scrolling beat-em-up game. It's really focused around co-op gameplay. At least they're focusing it a lot in the trailer around co-op gameplay. But at the same time, it looks very, very enticing. I love my beat-em-up games. It's one of the styles that I can't get enough of. As long as the game's offering something fresh and unique, I love jumping into a good beat-em-up game. You can knock them out in a couple of hours, and they always have a ton of replay value after. So let's take a look at the trailer, and you can tell me what you think about it in the comments down below. Oh, by the way, this one is releasing on April 17th, my bad, and it is going to be selling for $24.99. So $24.99, a little pricier for this one for this week. That's maybe the only thing holding it back a little. Now let's jump in. Very anime heavy art style. It reminds me of Castle Crashers, by the way, in the gameplay. Meets like maybe Scott Pilgrim. The one thing that maybe worries me a little bit about this one is I hope they don't go too generic with the gameplay, okay? Because I'm seeing a lot put on the art style, the anime style, trying to sell this. I am maybe slightly worried that the gameplay could go a bit generic, if you get what I'm seeing. Like, you know, a little bit like button mashing without any real thought behind it. That's maybe the one worry I have here about it. But overall, nonetheless, I think this one looks super interesting for this week. If you're into the co-op beat-em-up genre, I think you should definitely keep an eye out on a review for this one. Once again, trying hard to get review codes. Gonna try to do 1 or 2 extra streams this week. If I manage to get one, this will definitely be a top candidate. Now, next, we're going to follow it up with another one of my top picks for this week, a game called Sacre Bleu. Now, this game is also releasing on April 17th, and it'll be selling for $14.99. Now, we also saw this game in a recent showcase, and it looked really good, and now this trailer, looking at it again, the game has me even more excited. The one thing, however, is it's very bullet time focused, and it's sort of giving me a little of a PTSD due to it reminding me a lot of Laika, which is a game I loved, by the way. I gave it a 9 out of 10, but at the same time, I died a million times in that game before I got a hang of the bullet time mechanics. And this game is giving me like a lot of like reminders of that type of gameplay, although you don't have to deal with the crazy motorcycle mechanics. But let's take a look at the gameplay and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Sacre Bleu! I was framed on false charges. But why? I am the king's most trusted musketeer. I must use my blunderbuss to escape before it's too late.
Like, it seems a game that's almost like an auto runner where you have to not stop moving ever.
Difficult. I shall be swift. No time to waste. Over the water. In the air. The danger is around every corner.
Are you guys getting the PTSD like I am? Because whew, the more I see this, the more I want to play it, but the more I'm also like fearful of it. Oh yeah, this looks like a multi-death game. So who wants me to play this game? Probably Frenchie Mom is definitely going to be top of the list. She's going to have a front line and she's going to have a very busy night counting the deaths. But Sacre Bleu, honestly, however, I find the game looks amazing. If you're into that like challenging type of gameplay, I think this game is going to be right in your wheelhouse for this week. Looks like an excellent release. And you know what? $14.99 is an excellent price for a game like this. I honestly, when I was looking at the gameplay, was expecting it to be more expensive than this. Not that I want it to be more expensive. I just find that they went for a really, really competitive sales price that might actually help this game get out to a wider public. But definitely one to check out for this week. Now, let's jump into our next one. Once again, we're still on April 17th. April 17th is a very busy day for this week. And we're going to be next looking at LunarLux, which is releasing, which is going to be selling for $19.99. Now, this is an RPG game, and it reminds me a lot of the Mega Man Battle Network series. It seems to be a grid-based RPG game. Pixel art looks gorgeous. The gameplay looks very enticing. Let's take a look at the trailer. And when I say it looks like Mega Man Battle Network, it still seems to have its very own thing going. Because the grids don't look like those just generic battlefields. But at the same time, you can definitely see that movement seems to be restricted to somewhat of a grid. And come on, this reminds me enormously of the Mega Man Battle Network sequences where you have to go around the grids. There we have LunarLux. Like I said, honestly, if you're into like turn-based RPGs or grid-based RPGs, I think this one could be something good. Once again, maybe one that I would wait for a review just to make sure that it doesn't come out too generic. But overall, indie.io, by the way, generally comes up with some pretty good products. That's the publisher for the game. Not all of their games are guaranteed hits, but they generally have a pretty decent a pretty decent hit rate on their releases. So I would feel comfortable launching into this one. The $19.99 sales price is also pretty good, but I would say it's the max for a game like this. I'm glad they didn't go any higher because they'd be pushing it into a range which would be hard to convince people to jump into it, especially it being an unknown IP. Okay. Next, we jump into Vinebound. Now, this is one of my budget pickups for this week that I'd be willing to take a shot on. Now, it's the full name of the game is Vinebound Tangled Together. It is releasing on April 17th as well, and it's going to have a sales price of only $4.99. Now, this is another take on the Vampire Survivor genre, but get this, it's built for co-op gameplay, where you're both attached together with a sort of wire, and I'm not exactly sure how the wire plays in. Like, does it damage enemies or do you take damage? But it definitely has an original take on it, and it's limited to couch co-op, which I find really, really cool for this style of gameplay, because maybe if the only one of the downsides to Vampire Survivor is it's a really cool game to play when friends come over, but you always have to generally play one at a time. So jumping into couch co-op on this actually seems like a really great idea. So let's take a look at the trailer. And you know what? At $4.99, I think it's worth taking a shot on. Don't worry, it starts out slow, but it gets pretty wacky towards the end. So actually the wire doesn't seem to be giving you taking any damage. What I'm wondering is, does it influence like your movement speed? The art style is a little cutesy, but it still works. So overall, you know what? Like I said, if you're into the Vampire Survivor style, you want something to play in couch co-op, I think this game could be an interesting pickup for this week, especially considering, like I said, that they're going for that budget $5 price point. And I do see the comments. I do agree it looks a little mobile-y in its presentation style, but I'd be willing to give it a shot. I like the couch co-op, like I said, perspective, and it's very rare that mobile games would have couch co-op built into it, so I'm not exactly sure if it even exists on mobile platforms. Now, we have 2 games left for this week. Our before last one is going to be Skies Above, that is also releasing on April 17th. Once again, has a pretty budget price point of $7.99. Now, this is coming to us from Flynn's Arcade, that really has a great track record of giving us some really simple yet fun games. And I love the concept here is that you have to protect a whale, like a sort of space whale that's flying through space. And the longer you keep it alive, the bigger rewards you get. And yes, it is a roguelike style of gameplay with an endless gameplay loop. And the point is to try to survive as long as possible while protecting your whale from these attacking, like, different enemy waves. So, super simple gameplay, yet it looks extremely enticing. Let's take a look at the trailer. I'm sure this is going to be one of those addictive games that once you jump into, you're just going to have trouble putting down without doing just one more run. So you see you have your like crazy Leviathan space whale that you have to protect from the oncoming like space enemy weird ball thingies. Then when you die, you get to upgrade your powers, and you get to go for another run. And for some reason, there's this weird fish collecting thing, but you know what? That's perfectly fine. As long as you know that whales aren't fish, they're mammals. Like I said, the gameplay looks funky yet addictive, super simple, but visually appealing. And once again, I'm loving the budget price point. $7.99 for a game like this can really be a great pickup point for the game. And you know what? If you want to wait, it's most likely going to go on sale. The Flynn Arcade games go on sale pretty regularly, and they hit that 50% mark pretty quick. If you can pick this one up for like $4 or $3.50, my God, it's going to be a steal, I think. And like I said, each one of their games I've played so far, I've enjoyed, especially if you're a fan of like retro arcade styles. And on top of it, they're easy to pick up, yet they become extremely addictive. Now, our last game for this week is probably going to be one of the biggest releases of the week for most people, especially retro enthusiasts, especially RPG fans, and that is the Lunar Remastered Collection that is releasing on April 18th. So we're finally getting out of April 17th and moving to the 18th. However, this one also does come with a pretty decent price point of $49.99. However, you're getting a crap ton of gameplay here. So the game, it might be $50, but we're talking about insane hours of gameplay here. And by the way, if you're unaware, the Lunar RPG series is considered one of the best RPG series of all time. If you ask for a lot of people what their top RPG series are in the retro RPG style, Lunar often comes up as one of the premier series RPG wise. So let's take a look at the trailer. But this is one of those collections, if you've never played the series, and you're a fan of retro RPGs, I definitely recommend it. And most likely, if you've already played the games, you're already convinced whether you're going to pick this up or not. So let's take a look at the trailer and see what this game is all about.
In your dreams, magical thoughts,
I still have this on DS. It's been on multiple platforms.
In your dreams, love is the plot, carried on wings of hope.
This isn't just my adventure, Luna. It's ours. It's so beautiful.
You have to be reasonable. The Dragon Master causing problems must be an imposter.
The time
Dodge this.
when everything
Mega Magic Flame!
I mean, the cutscenes arts is beautiful. The pixel art within the game is also very good, but it is very retro. And I'm probably going to get this song copyrighted, so if ever I have to mute the song, by the way, guys, full trailer is available in the description down below. You can always check it out if I'm forced to mute the song for the video. So there we have it, the Lunar Remastered Collection. Honestly, I've heard good things about this. I just want to say I did check out a little bit of the comebacks for people that did get review codes for this early. The one thing I have heard, however, is that the voice acting is, although it's really nice, I heard it's pretty hit or miss. There are some people that enjoyed the voice acting, some that didn't like it so much. But overall, everyone agrees that the series remains a classic. It just has the same advantages and disadvantages of the original game, with maybe the added thing that the voice acting, some people will like it, some people won't. But overall, I think it's going to be a stellar release for this week. And like I said, most people are probably already convinced if you're going to pick it up or not. If you didn't know it was coming out, well, now you do. So that was pretty much it for this week's new Nintendo Switch games. Like I said, a pretty busy week for this, like late in the Switch's life cycle and almost at the Nintendo Switch 2. So let me know as usual in the comments down below what games you think you're going to be picking up for this week. Did I forget any games releasing that you really would have liked to see on the list? You can also let me know about those in the comments down below. And as usual, don't forget on the way out to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, click on the notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.